of talk about how bad it was and it's about ready for the wrecking ball, and that's not correct. That's been a misnomer for a long, long time. It wasn't falling apart at all.
One of my friends said, "You better not buy a place down there because they're going to tear it down just like they did the market."
Dave and I bought the house together, and it was prompted by a little trip to Williamsburg, Virginia, and we sort of got enthused about what they were doing in Williamsburg.
Later in life, I was alone, and I thought I'd come to the South End and see if I could fix up a little old house. Mr. and Mrs. Fetch and Mrs. Fetch's father, Harry Royce, had bought and restored, I think, 4 properties. And they wanted to spread the word that this was a good idea and it was a good way to preserve houses that were of historical value. So when they finished one on Wall Street, they made quite an effort to get publicity.
The Columbus Dispatch got word of it and came down, took pictures of it, ran an article in the paper, and there were any number of people that had driven down there, people who their ancestors had done something down in the area, and we're very happy that somebody began to start to do something about it. We got their names and the addresses, and we asked them if they would come to a meeting down at Schiller Park.
We planned a community meeting for the public right away. That meeting was set and was advertised for January the 10th in the Schiller Park Schiller House.
And from those people that showed definite interest, we set up a steering committee to organize the German Village Society.
And out of that meeting, 183 people signed up as charter members. If it wasn't for Frank, there would not be a German Village today. He was a wonderful person. He knew what he wanted, and he knew how to get done what he wanted. I've always said we had the right person at the right time with the right amount of knowledge.
We all sort of gathered together and volunteered to have our homes open, and at that time the homes really were nothing like what they are today. They had just been cleaned up, redecorated, and ready to move in and enjoy it, not thinking that this someday was going to be a show place. David and I had to furnish our own host. He and I were hosts along with his mother, and we had a friend by the name of Lillian. So the 4 of us sort of hosted our house together.
It was kind of scary. I remember we had our house on tour. They had a difficult time getting 10 houses to be on tour. As I recall, the ticket to get through with all 10 houses was $1. And I remember I said, "Frank, who in the world's going to pay $1 to go through these houses?" He said, "You might be surprised," and I was surprised.
Without the house and garden tours, the village wouldn't have flourished, because people got an invitation to see what was really going on down here, and they couldn't believe it.
The Oktoberfest was held in Schiller Park. You may not serve alcoholic beverages in a city park, and the Oktoberfest is supposed to be about beer. So we had many companies that sold beer set up with sidewalk carts and that sort of thing. And it was very rural kind of a thing.
They were like a Kiwanis Club festival on a weekend.
It was deplored by the people who lived around, because a few people drank too much beer and then sat on their steps and were rowdy and that kind of thing. So after about 3 years, it was moved to the state fairgrounds, and it was not successful there, and we were going to disband the whole thing. And then Fred Holdridge decided it should come back to the village.
Now Howard and I were running the store, and everybody, all the tourists would come in and say, "When is the Oktoberfest going to come back to German Village where it should be?" Now the first one was held in the brewery district. We were overwhelmed with money. The people in the ticket booths who had no lights at night would call and say, we can call, get somebody passing by and say, "Get the money out of this booth, I've got it all over the floor," because they don't have any room for it. and we were taking aprons full of money into the office. We ended up with a $100,000 profit the first year.
Originally, we liked the architecture, and we drove around Schiller Park quite a bit, and it was summertime, and there were millions of people out there, and it felt like a real community. And people seemed to be really enjoying their neighborhood. Even before we bought a house here, we were looking at a house on Schiller Park.
Standing on the sidewalk, observing and discussing several houses on Deschler.
Specifically across from what was Klaus and Jeannie Gallagher's
Yes, that's
house.
absolutely right.
And it had a for sale sign in front of the house.
There was a for sale sign out front, and we just stood out there one Sunday looking at this house thinking, I wonder if we could live here. I wonder if we could live here. And here came two women power walking around Schiller Park, and they walked by at a really rapid rate, and one of them looked back and said,
Buy it, Adam.
And I'm like, wait, come back.
I think we probably spent about 20 or 30 minutes with them, and they had the whole scene.
We ate and drank every word, and within the next 2 days decided that somehow, some way, we were going to end up in German Village.
We have neighbors that come by every day, and just when Katie was born, I don't think we cooked a meal for 2 months. That's what it's all about. It's, whenever we needed anything, or it would be hard to go to a new neighborhood and start all over because we just have such great times here.
Back in '78 when we had that big snow, Dave and I had a little Volkswagen, and a little Volkswagen Bug was the only thing that could get away from the curb and all that snow. So we were running around, going to the grocery store for the neighbors, bringing in food, making a big pot of soup and taking soup to the neighbors. So, and that same feeling is still going on. We are so closely knit, and we're looking after each other all the time.